I'm Michelle Graves, your host on today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm glad to have you here. Now, at The Power of Money, we are interested in three things happening. First, we want you to get the necessary education so that you and your family can make the decisions that will impact positively on you in your financial life. The second thing is that you be empowered to prosper. I only want the best for you. And you can only get that if you have education and then the drive to make it happen. And the third thing that is so important to me is that you recognize that life is more than a journey and that you be energized so that you can begin to participate in the truly joyous experience of living. So, here's to empowerment, here's to education, and here's to energy. I'm Michelle Graves, your host, Power of Money, and here we go. And here we go. We're back on part 2 of our series on entrepreneurial foundational principles. Again, I'm your host, Michelle Graves, affectionately known for the last 40 years, if you can believe that, as the Money Lady. And again, it's my joy to say to you that in the year 2019, we will be spending the entirety of that year discussing entrepreneurship. So you want to go in business. What does that look like? What are the skills that you need? What are the resources that you can tap into? And as a part of that commitment, I brought in my estimation, one of the top business advisors in the United States, a black woman, by the way, who has for over 30 years been doing this and knows her stuff very well. If you are planning on going into business, you want to listen to these two segments. We did part 1, now we're going to do part 2, where we're going to be talking about, again, pre-business planning. We talked about strategic planning. Now we're going to talk about the operating plan and the business plan. She's going to be sharing her thoughts and insights on that to help you to begin to focus on the things that are important if you're going to do this for your life. Now, before I introduce Adrienne Hurd, I'm going to say a couple of things to get clarity of information. Sales reps are not entrepreneurs, okay? Sales reps are people that sell products that an entrepreneur probably developed and needs to get them through distribution outlets. Let's talk about some familiar sales reps that you know about. Mary Kay, they're sales reps. They make a bunch of money, but they don't have to deal with the creative process of developing products, identifying markets, etc., etc. Pharmaceutical companies use sales reps to push their drugs. Why? Because they manufacture, they need people to rep for them or represent them. Very important that you know the difference. Many of you that are watching here would probably do better in the sales rep capacity because, as Ms. Hurd said in our earlier segment, there's an administrative component to this. You got to run your business. I'm not talking about reporting your sales and ordering products. I'm talking about it's your stuff. You are the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. The buck stops with you. Please get the difference because it'll save you a lot of pain and sorrow. You may not have to sell the product from ground up. You may affiliate as a rep with other ventures and activities. And can you make money? Yeah, but you're going to work with that too. There's no free lunch. Even as a sales rep, you got to get people to buy the product. You got to many times push to build your, quote, downline. These all require time, energy, and effort. It doesn't just happen. So I wanted to presage our next interview on operating plans and business plans with my thoughts about your getting clarity. There's nothing wrong with being a sales rep, but please understand that you are not a business owner. You are selling somebody else's stuff for which you're paid well, but the bottom line is that's when people tell me, do you want your own business? I'm like, I have my own business and several to boot, and they are all, you work like dogs. You're going to work like a dog as a rep. How are you?
Fine. Glad to be back.
I'm glad you're back. What'd you think about that issue? Sales reps, if people come to you and they understand the difference?
They don't, and I like your analogy, and I like your description.
Yeah.
And you can make a lot of money being a sales rep, so it depends on what your goal is.
Yeah.
But being an entrepreneur is not the same as being a sales rep.
It is not.
Because the whole baby is yours.
Totally.
There's nothing you can, if you're a Mary Kay sales rep and you decide you don't want to do it anymore, you send it back and they give you money back.
Yeah. Nice.
They develop all of your advertising materials. Now you decide how much to buy of the advertising material. So it's not a full business. It's a sales rep.
And there is certainly nothing I could say other than it's made many women wealthy. And
with a minimal investment.
With a minimum capital investment.
And low risk.
Yeah, they've already done the work.
Mm-hmm.
They have. And for which they're entitled to make a handsome profit, which that corporation does. And that's perfectly fine as well. But I just want people to be clear that you are, just in terms of understanding terminology, so as not to offend those of us who are in business, meaning payroll and everything else. That's not what's happening.
Okay.
Okay, let's begin.
So now we're at part 2. We're doing planning basics. Part 1, we covered an overview of planning and we went into detail on the strategic plan. Today, part 2, we're going to talk about business plans and operating plans. So let's start with the business plan, which was the thought process. You're going to think about your concept, your customer, and your cash, your capital. The concept is actually what we do. The customer is who cares. The customer is who is most likely to buy from me. The customer is who's most likely to buy from me, who has the money to buy from me, who else could they possibly buy from, and why would they buy from me? And then the capital. What's it going to cost me? What's it going to cost me to make this product? What's it going to cost me to distribute this product? What's it going to cost me to get this customer? What's it going to cost me to even get started? And where am I going to get it from?
Oh my God.
So your business plan looks at your business concept, who cares, and what is it going to cost. Whereas your mission said, this is why I exist and this is what I want to be. You know, my mission is, if everything goes right, I'll be in Seattle, Washington. My business plan says, okay, I'm in Dayton, Ohio. My mission is to get to Seattle, Washington. What do I need to do to get there? It's like building a house. I want a house. Okay, well, let's get some plans together. Mm-hmm. How far in advance do you need to order the windows? What size do they need to be? How many bricks do you need to get? What do they cost? What colors are you going to have? Plumbing. Who are the best plumbers? You plan it. You just don't say, I want a house and build it. Plan. So this is your business. You have to think about it. You have to research it to see if it's true. And when you've done this thinking and you've done this researching, then you write it down, see if the pieces work together. If they do, then you implement them. And then you evaluate them to see, is it working? Oh, did I end up in Florida? I took a wrong turn. Mm-hmm. Evaluate it. So let's go into a little bit of more detail on the concept. When we're looking at the concept, you're looking at the type of business. You're looking at the legal structure. Am I going to be a corporation or LLC? Am I going to do it as a sole proprietor? What's the industry that I'm in? What's typical for this industry? What are the products and the services that I'm going to offer? What meets my mission? Who are my markets? Why am I going to be profitable? We talked earlier about a USP, unique selling proposition. Why are my markets going to purchase from me? What's going to be successful? Why? And that goes back to the environmental analysis. We talked about the SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. See, the business plan supports the strategic plan. And then the operating plan supports the business plan. So they all work together. Finally, what is different about my business? What's my competitive advantage? If you're starting up, your competitive advantage cannot be cost. Oh, I charge less than my competition. Yeah, you charge less than your competition. If my pockets are deep, I'll lower my price long enough to run you out of business.
And they do.
Yes.
Look at Walmart.
Look at drugstores.
Oh my goodness. Look at drugstores.
If I'm starting up, what I want to compete on has got to be something other than cost. So now, let's look at your customers. You need to figure out, who are they? Where are they? Oh, how do they buy? When do they buy? Why do they buy? Do research. Why would they buy from me instead of somebody else? Figure out on your customers, can they pay? Will they buy it? Do they need it? Can they do it someplace else? Figure out how they pay. In today's world, external environment, you have no control, but people like to use credit cards.
Yes,
they like
do.
to use PayPal.
Yes, they do.
You need to figure out how you can use the market that uses PayPal. I don't care if you have a web presence or not. They may not be buying online, but when they buy from you in person, they may want to use a credit card. I'm not adverse to accepting credit cards, even though you're going to have to pay the credit card company a little bit of money, maybe 2%, maybe 3%. But that's 3% of a sale that you may not have had.
I totally agree.
Or
Yep.
do you want to spend your life running around collecting on bad checks?
Been there.
I kind of learned that from one of my clients who is a hair salon, which is a heavy cash business. She stopped collecting checks, taking checks, because she said if their credit is good enough that their check will clear the bank, they got a credit card.
Yes.
If they don't have a credit card, their check's not going to clear the bank.
Right.
I never thought about it that way.
Right. Right.
But consider your customers. Think about how they pay. Think about where they look for information. Think about it.
Can I interject?
Sure.
Because where I go to get my spa and nails, they are Vietnamese, as most of them are nationally. And he fled Vietnam, just background, fled Vietnam, was a general. Yes, in South Vietnam when the whole country collapsed. So he fled and had to start fresh in the United States with nothing. His family stayed behind, but he started fresh. He built this very successful spa, because Asians tend to be very methodical and disciplined
Yes.
in terms of money and those kind of things. and also have a cadre of resources because they hire their own people. Long story short, he told me, he said, I started offering a discount if you paid me cash to avoid the merchant fee. He said, but I found that so many of these bad checks and bad credit cards. So what he did is he has an ATM machine in his facility. And you have to use that ATM machine and it disperses cash. He said, look, being in business, Michelle, is tough. And they go to that machine. I don't get involved with credit cards anymore because then you're dealing with chargebacks and fraud. So if you have a credit card, you got to go to that machine. And I actually was there when a woman's card was declined. She put it in to get cash and it declined the card.
Wow.
Yeah, and she looked perplexed because that was going to be a very short experience for her. Okay, but I never thought that it had come to that. For even the credit, you can't even trust people to give you good credit cards. And you don't know that until you cycle through. And then the credit card is not a good credit card.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd put that 2 cents in. Things are evolving and changing as we move into a cashless economy, and business owners have to be smart. Yeah.
So what we're getting from this, if you have a retail establishment, you need to have an ATM machine.
You need on-site.
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 Never offer in-store credit.
Never.
Because what happens, I'm not going to pay you. And when you eventually get tired of trying to track me down for my money or your money,
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm going to stop
your
doing
money.
business with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the store next door that never offered me credit in the first place and badmouth you all over town for
Yeah.
the way you mistreated me.
People are cray-cray, as the young people say, particularly when it comes to the retail experience.
Yes.
And I did not have the understanding of that like I do today. When I looked at how people return items that they've worn, and the store says, we're not taking it back. Why not? It didn't fit. Well, we're not taking it back. And just all this angst over $7. You're like, really? Are you serious? Why? Because people are just people.
Okay. Well, now let's go ahead and talk about the third C in your thought process. You thought about your concept, you thought about your customer, now you have to think about your capital, which means your money, your cash. Think about what the total cost of your project is going to be. Think about what your major cost components are, and also think if there's something that you can manipulate, delay, defer, or as I'm doing my thinking and doing my research, figure out if there's vendor credit I can get. Figure out where you're going to find your money and figure out exactly what you need, what to do with the money. You can't go to the bank and say, give me $100,000. The bank's going to say, for what?
Exactly.
They want detailed plans
And
on
they
what you're
want
going to do with the
collateral.
money. They want collateral, and they want to know how you're going to pay it back.
Yes.
It's not enough to take, if you are a startup and you have no history, you probably won't get a loan, or you may be able to get a personal loan, but not a business loan.
Right.
If you've got some history, they're going to look at your history. If you have a history of making money, then I'll loan you money. If you have a history of not handling your money well, they're not going to. Banks are in business to make money. If you are a startup,
all the time,
the source of money for startups is the 3 F's. Well, the first is your own personal savings. The 3 F's are friends, family, and fools, because those are the only people who invest in a startup. You're high risk. Do your research. I was dealing with the client who was buying, and it was either a bowling alley or a skating rink, and they were going to remodel it. And in their startup, they had $5,000 for repaving the parking lot.
Only 5?
That was my question. I said, did you get a quote on this? They said, no, but that's what we're going to pay.
Oh,
Now remember, I only asked questions. I said, are anybody on your team contractors? No. Do any of you have any experience with asphalt? No. But that's what we're putting in our budget because that's what we're going to pay. Okay,
okay.
30,000.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
40.
No, well, this was a few years ago.
Okay.
So it was only 30,000.
Okay.
Of course, they put in 5,000.
Okay.
And they were
Of
having
their
trouble getting, that they were in their budget.
Okay.
And they were have trouble getting funding from a bank because the bank could look at their numbers and know that their numbers had not been researched. The bank asked them, give us some numbers. And so they gave them some numbers. Hadn't researched them. So let's go on, because this research they should have done was to come up with what's called a key number. And when you're a startup, the key number is the amount of money you need to start up and to survive until your cash flow is positive. Yep, by month 5, I'm going to be bringing in big bucks.
Don't think so.
You need to plan on what you're going to do to survive to month 5. Because trust me, you bounce checks
Oh my gosh.
in the first 2-3 months. Many suppliers with startups require them to pay cash up front
And they should.
before you can develop a
Right.
credit line.
Right.
When you go to the bank, yeah, my income statement shows I'm making good money. They want to look at your balance sheet to see
What
who,
you have.
how many people do you already owe out of this money that you're bringing in. You need to know. So now let's go on. We've told you the 3 parts of the plan. Well, you express them in writing. So you've done your thinking, you've done your research. The next thing you have to write. The 3 written parts of the plan are the words, the concept. You write out the business. You write out your research. You show how it works together. The second part is the financial data. The financial data matches the words that you put in section 1. Your words that talked about the description, the products, the markets, the location, your competition, your management, your personnel, your employees, what you're going to do with this money that you're going to get. Your financial data are the numbers that match your words. Don't tell me you're going to have an operation that's open from 9 to 5, 7 days a week and has 3 people there at all times. And then I look at your financials, and under wages, you have wages to cover 1 person.
Right.
And then I say, wait a minute, your words said in order for this business to do what it needs to do, you need to have 3 people. Well, in order for it to make money and for the numbers to look good, I could only put in 1.
So is he going to have himself and a family member work free?
Then that's not a business. If the only way my
That's-
business is making money is that I'm donating my time,
Yes.
I need to work someplace where I can get paid.
Right.
Because my goal, my mission, and my strategic plan was to have a profitable business that could sustain me.
Right. Right.
So now you've done your financial data because you've done your research and you've put the numbers out. And you can get an advisor to help you with that.
Yep.
You don't have to be a genius. You just have to make sure that the basic numbers you've researched are correct. Because the most important part, as far as I'm concerned, is the supporting documents. And the supporting documents are going to prove to me that what you've told me is true.
Right.
What I'm looking for, I've read your stuff and your fluff.
Yep.
I've looked at your imaginary numbers. I want your supporting documents to show me that your stuff and fluff is true. I want your financial data to to show that it has been researched and it's just not a number I pulled out because it felt good or it was what I needed it to be. Supporting documents are the basis for your written documentation. Then you're going to implement your business plan. It's going to go over a 2 to 5 year period. And then you're going to evaluate the results. Implementation and evaluation. My mission was to get to Seattle. My plan is this is how I'm going to get there. I'm going to implement my plan, evaluate the results. The implementation of the plan is the third part, the detailed operations. When you do your business plan, I do not want you to put enough information in there that somebody else could take it and run with it. You want enough information so that they understand how it's going to operate. And you want to have enough supporting documentation to show that it has been researched and what I'm saying is proof that this is true. But your operating plans, those are the actions that you're going to take to implement it. And your operating plans are what I'm doing this year, short phrase. What am I going to do? How am I going to produce this product? How am I going to provide this service? How am I going to promote it? How do our customers find us? You know, I've identified our perfect customer, and I've said how I'm going to reach out to them, but how they're going to find me. And the final part of your operating plan is the paperwork. Businesses fail because they don't do paperwork. They don't keep track. Written procedures, these are my expectations on how it will be done. This is who's going to do it, how they're going to do it, when they're going to do it. This is how I will know if it's been done properly. It's details, details, details. One of the things we were talking about earlier was when you buy a franchise, the good thing about a franchise is what you're buying from them are the details, the detailed operating plan that talks about the actions, the people, the products that will accomplish what you need to do. How do you accomplish it? Using what? When? Details. You write it out, it saves everybody time. You train people, you define the task, you say this is the best way to do it, this is the way I want it done, because there are different ways to do stuff, but this is the way I want it done. You evaluate it, you document it, you make sure that people are following the guidelines. If they say they can't, there's no such thing as can't.
Right.
Can't means either I don't know how, in which case you train them, or it means I won't, which means you fire them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The headaches you get are not from the people you fire. The headaches you get are from the people you keep that you should have fired. Don't hire people because they need a job. Hire people because they can do the job that your company needs.
I like the way you stated that. I like the way you did that.
We as small businesses want to save the world, and so we don't save ourselves because we're busy saving the world. You need to understand that even if you're a nonprofit, you have to make money to cover your needs so that you can survive. And people evaluate the way you handle your money. Because in the business world, it's all about money.
Say that again.
In the business world, it's all about money.
Money. Money.
You can, when you're starting your business and you know where you want to be, you can decide that I want to risk this much money or I don't want to risk this much money. Fine. Then you tailor your plan. You don't change your mission or vision. You tailor your plan to match the capital that you're able to risk.
Right.
You tailor your actions to match your plan. There's a lot of overlap between your strategic plan, your business plan, and your action plan. They work together. You evaluate them at every stage. My strategic plan says that my mission is to get to Seattle, Washington.
Right.
My business plan, I thought there are various routes I could go. I could drive, I could fly, I could catch the Greyhound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which way do I want to go based on my mission is to get there, but my vision is to be well rested when I get there. So that cuts out certain things. Okay, my plan, I've decided that based on the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I'm going to drive. So in planning out driving, these are the stops I'm going to have to make, and at so much per mile for gas and hotel rooms, this is the amount of money I'm going to have, and if I don't have cash, then I need to make sure that I have enough credit to get me there. I'm also going to need, based on the amount of time it's going to take to get there, I'm going to need a driver. Oh yeah, and that driver will probably have to have these skills.
Yeah.
At least a driver's
At
license.
least a driver's
Oh,
license.
and my equipment, yeah, I'm going to need to have a vehicle that can go that far. My operating plan is a roadmap, GPS that I have looked at ahead of time. My operating plan is these are the hotels that I need to call. I make them call and make the reservations by such and such a date. My operating plan is I've identified what I need in a person. Now I need to go out and find that person. This is the training I'm going to do. These are the things that I'm going to verify. Strategic plan, business plan, operating plan. Strategic plan looks long range. Business plan, what am I going to do 2 to 5 years? Action plan, what are we going to do today? And how specifically are we going to do it? The people and procedures. You've written them out, you've implemented them, and then you evaluate them to see if they worked. This worked, this didn't work. Got a great driver, but we just didn't get along. So.
And that happens a lot. What are some of because this is so elegant what you've laid out, and for those of you that are in business and are floundering, I'm going to have her back to talk about how you can reboot your company, particularly given the technological changes that are taking place. Automation, marketing has just blown up. How do you deal with social media? And what are some of the things you should leverage? But this is, again, these two shows are focusing on pre-business, again, as a part of the Power of Money's commitment in 2019 to getting those of you who've been sitting on the fence prepared to go into business. Make no doubt about it, the United States of America is on it, okay? There are people making so much money. It just seems sinful. But that is what capitalism is all about. This is a capitalistic country, not a socialist and not a communist. And people that are capitalists have the right to make profit. Now, for those of you that are scratching and saying, but I hate my job. You don't go into business because you hate your job. You find another job, wherever. I mean, you find another job. You do what you love if you hate your boss. But going into business is a very different animal. And so my belief system, though, at this point is that I need to encourage those of you who are willing to put in the discipline and the time and the focus by following what Ms. Hurd has talked about into your own life so that you will be able to have something to leave to your family. let's talk about that if you don't mind, because with many people I talk to, they forget that when you birth this thing, you also have to be prepared to sell it.
At the time that you birth this baby, you also have to come up with your exit strategy.
Talk about that.
My exit strategy is, when I'm through with this business, do I want it to close? Do I want to sell it? Or do I want it to pass it on? And if you're planning on passing it on, you make sure that the person you're passing it on has that same vision, because they might not want it.
Oh my gosh, you're being kind.
And if
You're
they do
being
want
kind.
it, you need to make sure that they have the proper training and dedication to carry it forward. If you're planning on selling it as your exit strategy, you need to make sure that you have lots of documented procedures and that you keep lots of good records so that you can show that it's worth it for somebody to buy it. So at the time that you form your business, have in mind how you're going to get out of your business.
And that is so important because so few people, it's been my experience, have looked far enough down the road to see the distinct probability that you're going to have to sell it, move it on through legacy, or close it. And so what happens is they work endlessly and tirelessly for all these years without an end strategy, and then one of the owners gets sick. I mean real sick, like cancer or one of those other kind of diseases. And
I had a company I was working with, and they were a partnership, and one of the things that it was 3 or 4 partners.
okay,
One of the things that I had to go over with them, they were a perfect blend, because they had, when they started the company, they looked to see what strengths they needed
okay,
to cover everything.
Okay.
And so they told me what each partner was responsible for. And I said, and so what's your plan if one of the partners leaves or dies? We're young. I said,
What does that mean?
that didn't answer my question.
Right.
I said, so you need to tell me what your plans are so that your company can survive.
Right.
So they struggled, but they do what I say because the majority partner makes them do what I say. And they came up with a succession plan.
Okay.
Within a month of them putting in a succession plan, one of the partners had a heart attack.
Life.
And this was a partner who was in charge of field operations,
Oh my goodness.
of the crews they had in the field.
Yes.
And they were like, none of us have, one was an engineer, one was a planner, but they had in place what happens
Right.
so that the company goes on if something happens to one of the partners.
That sounds like a buy-sell agreement. Somebody
And
better have some insurance.
So
on
now they have 3 partners. I can't remember if they had key man insurance or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
But they had a specific description of what each partner did and where they could find someone with those types of skills.
Internally or externally?
Both.
Both? Okay. That's major. Because
The company
life
would've
comes,
fallen.
the company would not have survived.
No, because each person brought specific skills to the business.
Yeah.
That was why they had met each other on jobs working for other people.
Okay.
And decided to form their own company by merging their skills together.
Smart.
Yes.
Smart.
Yes.
But completion says have successorship in place.
Because if we look at this and your company can't survive without one of your
Right,
partners,
right.
then what happens with that if something happens to that partner?
Yes.
And as I said, they did it because the majority partner said they had to.
But a wise leader.
And now they really listen to him because his vision is for the company to grow and prosper.
So did they have a common vision, all 4 of these gentlemen?
to grow and prosper.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And they didn't want to work for other people. They wanted to work for themselves. We talked before about how working for yourselves means you take the risk, but you also get the benefits. Versus working for somebody else, you don't take the risk, but when you come up, do a really good job, they get the benefits.
Right.
So when you're working for yourself, you're taking the risk, but you're also getting the benefits.
Yeah. And just for those of you that are watching, just to bring you forward, I'm talking with Adrienne Hurd, who's a management and business advisor, nationally known, 30 plus years in the industry, and she's a phenomenal woman. I've had her on before, but we're now talking about the entrepreneurial agenda for 2019 and some of the things that need to be in place before you do this. So I only say that because, again, passion does not mean success. It's an emotion. And in business, you will find that discipline and organization will get you a lot further than being passionate about your business. I want you to be excited, but I want an infrastructure there that says that you have thoughtfully considered all things, because it's hard to succeed in business, wouldn't you say?
It depends.
Okay, that's a good question answer.
If you come to business prepared to work hard, if you've thought out what you're going to do, if you've researched it, if you've given yourself written notes to follow, they don't have to be pretty, they don't have to be color-coded. If you've done what you said you were going to do, and then evaluated it to see the results, it can be done.
Well, when we think, and I'm just talking about the success field that we find in America, where you look at people that came into the market with no information, no knowledge, had an idea, and they became very, very wealthy. How often is that the case?
Rarely. That's why they like to show it on television, because it's very rare. Often when you see those success stories, you will find that they already had a connection with money, so it didn't matter if they made it or not.
Yes.
So they had family or friends who were willing
to bankroll them.
Hey, I'll give you some money to play with.
Yeah.
Just to get rid of
right,
you.
Right. It isn't, I kind of tell people, that's a screensaver. That's not how it happens. The underbelly of the story is he or she may lose their mate because they're tired of the long hours. That's something you need to think about. If your mate is going to be involved in the business, that's another whole story of the dynamics of that.
Do they want to? Do they have the skills?
Do they want to, and do they have the skills?
Or you and your best friend go into business because you're so alike. Remember I just talked about the 4 people that formed a business because they each brought different skills to the table. If you and your friend bring the same skills to the table, who's going to do all the stuff that you don't like?
Right.
Which is usually the paperwork.
Yeah. The bills.
Be prepared. If you don't like doing it, be prepared to pay a professional to do it. If you don't like paperwork, be prepared to pay somebody else. If you don't like marketing or not good at developing marketing tools, be prepared to pay a professional. If you're great at selling and you don't mind doing paperwork, you're just not interested in being in the plant or making the product, then be prepared to pay for it. Nobody is good at all 3. All 3 need to be done in a professional manner. Be prepared to pay for those things that you either don't have the time or don't have the interest, because they all have to be done.
And I think it's critical that you emphasize they all have to be done, whether you like it or not.
You need to look at your financials. My favorite story I can tell because the company went out of business. It was the second time around bookstore, and in the publishing industry, the way it goes is the books are sold to the regular stores if the publishing company sells it for $5 and the store sells it for $10. So that's
100% markup.
That's the markup. Second time around stores, they buy used books or they buy overruns where the publisher has produced more books than they're able to sell, and they buy them at much less. So instead of paying $5 for it, they pay $2.50.
Right.
And this particular bookstore did what the industry does. They doubled it. So I paid $2.50 and I sold it for $5.
Right. That's fair.
No, it's not.
Tell me.
Well, at the end of the year,
Because they're not around.
At the end of the year, they took their grocery bag of receipts to the accountant, who charged them by the hour to sort through the grocery bag.
Yes.
And when all was said and done, based on the number of books they'd sold, they lost 10 cents on every book. Just 10 cents.
But aggregate.
Yes, because they hadn't bothered to do the paperwork to see what was going on every month. I would have paid 15 cents more for the book. I would have paid $5.15 instead of $5. It's still less than the $10.
Right.
What they hadn't taken into account was the regular bookstore doubled the price, and so they had $5 to put towards all of this other stuff. You doubled the price. You only had $2.50 to pay the rent, to pay the utilities, to pay your clerks, to pay for the cabinets, to pay for your, they had a electronic point of sale system that runs it. They only had $2.50 per book, whereas the others had $5 per book. So no, they weren't covering their bills. They lost the money they had invested in this brilliant idea because they weren't keeping track. They weren't doing the paperwork. They kept it all.
But they weren't tracking
They weren't paying it. They
weren't
paying attention to
tracking
what
it,
was going on. They were in business. They had a bookstore.
Well, interestingly enough, there's a company in Cincinnati, Joseph Beth, which was a little bit of an eclectic bookstore, had a coffee house next to it, but they were going under because the nature of book sales has changed.
Yeah.
And
Amazon.
Amazon and Kindle, and people don't like books anymore. There's a whole generation
I do like a book if I can come in and sit and have coffee while I'm reading it.
Absolutely.
It becomes an experience.
Yes.
We will pay for an experience.
Yes.
We won't pay for what's called a commodity item.
Right.
A commodity item competes on price.
Right.
And the overhead, when you're competing on price, makes shopping on the web better.
It does. So what they did, and he had the business on the market for sale, no buyers, no takers after the other big company went under that did books.
Was it Barnes & Noble?
Barnes & Noble's, no can do. What he did is he changed from becoming a retailer to going into the healthcare industry. I'm telling you, this is as we speak. They run all of the gift shops at all the hospitals and stock their books and everything else in the hospitals. The hospitals pay them a management fee for running their gift shop
and selling the books
and
from the
selling their books from his little arsenal. And
this is a gentleman who did an excellent strategic plan.
Yes.
When he did the analysis, what are my strengths? I know books. What are the opportunities? Hospitals have bookstores.
Gift shops, which are bookstores. People
They
read.
sell the type of things in a hospital gift shop that you would see in a bookstore.
Yes, including trinkets and stuff.
So he took his strengths and looked for an opportunity that matched his strengths.
So what has happened, because hospitals are a closed community, is all the hospitals in the region now are being run by this bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
And they are no longer looking at the end of the road, but given where healthcare is, I'm sure they'll be busy.
And
for
his
some time.
mission is to provide books to the general public at a profit. His SWOT analysis says, can't do it at a retail location anymore,
Nope.
but I'm good at books.
And multiple locations.
And what are the opportunities? They need books. They need someone who knows how to run a bookstore.
Amazing. You know, because of that experience, and I travel constantly, I look at all of these stores that sell books, because you know, when you're in the airport, you do read because you don't have anything else to do. And these particular bookstores are all over the place, selling books, newspapers, everything at full price. No discount at the airport.
Yes, there is. There will be a rack at the airport. This is a book that should take you this long to read, and you can turn it in at the other end when you get to the airport, and they will give you half back. And then that book goes on the shelf, and you can buy this. You can buy the book full price, or you can buy a previously read book. And every time you read it, you can just turn it in at the next airport and get your money back.
I didn't know that.
Because people get books to read on the plane.
That's the only reason.
Or I'm going on vacation and I want to take 4 books to read on vacation. And then I'll turn it in when I get back. Right.
Turn them in, get half, and then they can sell it again. It's kind of like cars.
Yes.
It
yes.
is. Like
and you
used
notice,
cars.
we don't. No. They're not. If you're a high-end vehicle, you're not used. You're previously owned.
Oh, let me get that. Time is up.
Okay. It's been a pleasure.
Give them the information how to reach you, please.
Okay. My phone number, 937-837-5273. My email address, ALHEARD@HEARD, M as in money, G as in great, T as in time.com.
This has been splendid.
Yes.
This has been so wonderful. I will have you back again to talk about when your business is going under and what to do to resurface.
Okay.
Thank you all for being a part of part 2 of our whole discussion about strategic plans, business plans, and operating plans. Sounds like stuffy information, but if you're going to go into business, this is critical infrastructure stuff. So again, as always, I'm Michelle Graves, wishing you a great day. God bless you. Talk to you soon. You take care. Bye-bye.